They call it an urban legend, so no one has to believe it. They call her the White Lady, so no one has to say her name. I was driving the long way home that night. 2 lanes of cracked asphalt and a ditch that kept the moonlight for itself. The radio barely held a station. My coffee had gone cold enough to remember winter. There wasn't another pair of headlights for miles, just a county road that looked like it had decided to end in the middle of nowhere and dared me to follow. That's when I saw the dress. It wasn't a person at first, only a suggestion of white where there shouldn't be any. The beam of my headlights caught the edge of fabric on the shoulder, a soft movement like a veil breathing. The road was too quiet. The wind had forgotten its job. I eased off the gas and coasted. She stood facing the ditch, turned away from me, as if considering the dark water and deciding whether darkness could hold anything at all. Her dress hung simple and old-fashioned, the sort you see yellowing in antique stores. Only this one hadn't learned how to age. It was bright. It refused the night. Her hair fell long, darker than the road. Bare feet. Skin that the moon seemed to recognize. I rolled to a stop. Maybe it was the decent thing to do. Maybe it was the wrong kind of curiosity. My hand found the hazard lights without asking me first. Amber pulses on wet pavement. "Ma'am," I said, because there's a script we all know when we pretend the world is normal. She didn't turn. The dress swayed as if remembering a wind from another year. The air smelled faintly of lilies, the way church halls smell on Sundays after the last hymn, the way cemeteries smell when the water truck has just passed and left the ground tender. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I said, and in the pause that followed I understood there was no version of the night where I was going to like the answer. She stepped once onto the road, not sudden, not threatening, just a step that erased the distance between what I believed and what I could see. In the beam of my headlights, her dress didn't cast a shadow. There should have been one. The ditch kept the light like a mirror, but it refused her. She turned her face toward me. If you're waiting for a scream or a ruined mouth or the kind of shock people use for cheap thrills, you won't find it. That wasn't what she carried. She looked patient, the way a photograph looks long after the photographer is gone. "Do you need a ride?" I asked. My voice belonged to another driver. Her lips moved, but what reached me wasn't a word. It was a feeling shaped like a sentence, the kind you hear when someone is speaking behind glass. I understood that she wanted to go somewhere old. I understood that she had been walking the wrong direction for a very long time. It didn't feel like communication. It felt like weather. "Get in," I said, because I had already decided before I knew it. She opened the passenger door with a sound too quiet for new hinges. The smell of lilies climbed into the car and took the empty seat like it was a guest. When she folded her hands in her lap, the fabric fell into place as if it already knew the curve of my seat. She didn't look at me. She looked at the windshield the way someone looks at a lake when they know what it keeps. "Where to?" I said. She lifted a hand, pointed forward, then down, forward, then down, like marking a place on a map only she could see. A cemetery lived out there somewhere. Everyone in the county knew it. The old hill with stone angels that had lost their noses to years. You could find it by getting lost and letting the road do the rest. We drove without the radio. I didn't want to hear another voice. The wipers drew long breaths across the glass. Every mile, the air inside the car cooled by a degree I couldn't measure. My headlights took the world in thin slices. The slices didn't add up. "People say there's a white lady out here," I said, because silence had begun to feel like a hallway with no doors. "They say she waits on the road. They say she's looking for something she dropped and can't find." If she heard me, she didn't answer. But the dress gathered closer at her knees, as if listening. We took a left where the map stops pretending to know your name. The gravel shoulder welcomed us like an old friend who never learned boundaries. At the top of the hill, the wrought iron gate appeared, its scrollwork tired, its chain loose enough for a careful car. The sign read Greenwood Cemetery, letters flaking white as if a painter had forgotten the last coat. I shouldn't have known what to do next, but I did. I pulled up just inside the gate, killed the engine, left the hazards pulsing. The world did a soft reset with the quiet. She opened her door and stepped out barefoot into the gravel. No flinch, no sound. The lilies breathed. The dress carried its own light the way some memories do. She started walking between the stones like someone moving through a crowd of old relatives who politely refused to speak. I followed because the night had decided for me. Names, dates, the brief math that turns lives into dashes. A statue of a woman with wings too heavy for flight. Water from the afternoon sprinkle still collected in the curve of her palm. We passed a small gate that led to a slope of ground where the grass stubbornly stayed thin. She stopped. A flat stone lay there, square as a book. I could read it without trying. The date had learned patience. The name didn't belong to me and somehow did. The fresh flowers were not fresh. The ribbon had kept its knot because memory is good with knots. The white lady knelt and the night knelt with her. Not a sob, not a scream, just the kind of quiet that names a place holy for the length of a breath. Her hand hovered an inch above the stone, as if warmth could pass in both directions. The dress settled around her and forgot the rule about shadows again. Something in me wanted to apologize, to the ground, to the air, to whoever used to wait at that gate with a picnic basket and a promise. In the absence of good words, I stood still. She turned her head toward me, and this time the feeling shaped like a sentence became almost a word. I think it was home. Or it was the syllable you make when you mean to say it and the rest gets lost on the way. The hazard lights behind us clicked their soft metronome. Somewhere in the trees, a night bird tried a note and then reconsidered. My breath fogged the cold like handwriting. The gate's chain tapped the iron with a tiny patience. When she rose, she was lighter. Not happy. Don't make the night smaller than it was. But lighter in the way a room feels after you finally open the window that's been painted shut, and the house remembers how to exhale. She began to walk back toward the car. I stayed where I was because suddenly I knew what her leaving would look like and didn't want to be there for it. I looked at the stone again. A white ribbon, weathered to the softness of a sleeve. The lilies across the cemetery answered each other like distant bells. The passenger door eased closed. The hinges kept the secret. When I turned, the window showed me the seat as empty as a lesson. The smell of lilies remained, not strong, not weak, just exactly enough to tell me I hadn't imagined a thing. I didn't start the car for a while. I let the hazards count time the way a heartbeat does when it isn't trying to be heard. In the back seat, there was no indentation. On the floor mat, there was no water. In the rear view, my face had borrowed a decade from the stones around me. "We're done," I asked no one, so no one had to answer. The road found me again and arranged itself into miles. The radio returned with a song that had been waiting for the right listener. Grass along the ditches rehearsed its whisper. At the bottom of the hill, the county road remembered its manners and pointed me home. People like to say the white lady is a warning. Don't drive too fast. Don't drink. Don't leave your promises on a porch in late summer and hope the heat finishes them for you. People like to say that because it keeps the fear useful. I think she's something else. I think some stories are assigned to a place, the way a name is assigned to a child. They grow the same way. They learn the turns of the road. They keep a schedule based on the weather and the way the moon spins itself. If you see her, you don't have to stop. That's not the lesson. If you do, speak softly. Let the engine settle. Don't ask questions you wouldn't know how to answer. And if she climbs in and folds her hands in her lap and looks through your windshield like it's a lake she once loved, don't be afraid of the silence. Let the miles carry what they can. When the night is ready, it will put her where she's going.